Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Birbiglia.
All right. Hi. Hi there. How are you? Hi. Good to see you. Hello. Nice to see you. Hi. All right. Yeah. All right. I feel like I just asked whether Brooklyn was in the house, and I didn't. And I'm angry that you presumed that I would. Wow, this is crazy. I got dressed up for you. I wore clean sneakers. I was gonna tell you some stories tonight from my secret public journal, which is the blog that I write. Oh, okay. I'm glad that you would know that. It's a blog, and I'm always a little embarrassed to tell people I have a blog, because everybody has a blog about anything. The stories I tell are true, and I always have people come up to me after shows and be like, "Was that true?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Was it?" I don't know how to respond to that. Like, I guess I could say it louder. Like, "Yeah!" I'd be like, "It's probably true, he said it louder." But I was gonna tell you about my parents. I was just visiting them, and I don't like them. I've come to grips with this recently. I love them, you know, I would die for them, but if I met them at a party, and they were strangers, I'd just be like, "These people, you know, this place is beat, you know, like, they're like older, more boring versions of me." It's not cool. Because we're kind of, they're just kind of this amorphous kind of white Olive Garden Italian kind of, you know, they're not real Italian, they're Olive Garden Italian. They eat at the Olive Garden, and my dad shows off by pronouncing menu items authentically. He'll be like, "I'll have the pasta fagioli." I'm like, we're sitting in a strip mall between a Build-A-Bear and a Spencer Gifts. You'll have the pasta fagioli like everybody else. Not special. They make up phrases. I realized this as an adult when I would say the things my parents said to me as a kid to others in the outside world, and the people would be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'd be like, "But my mother said," "I don't know. Do you know?" Like my whole life when I wasn't allowed to do something, my mother would say, "Like funny at doing that." Yeah. Really confusing for a child. It seemed like she was encouraging it, you know? She'd be like funny at going to the mall. I was like, "Yeah, like fun." Pizza, buddies, arcade, fun. But at a certain point in my life, very recently, I decoded it. And I realized that like fun was her way of saying like hell. Because she's Catholic. And for Catholics, hell is fun. Yeah. I'm putting the pieces together. I'm collecting the clues. I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic. Anyone go to Catholic school growing up? Yeah. You always tell people who went to Catholic school because they're atheists. Because they really beat it out of you, you know? You go with a good attitude, and then you're just like, "Oh, man! I wanted to believe." And it's not just the molestations. I mean, if it were just one vice, I feel like we could give them a pass. For me, it was these fundraisers they'd have us do every year. I'm not making this up, they would hand us every year a cardboard suitcase full of trinkets to sell door to door to strangers. And if we sold enough, they would give us a pair of aviator sunglasses. Because that's what third graders need. Sexy eyewear, you know. And so I carried this box, it's like the size of my body. The church was like my knickknacks pimp, you know. Like I'd walk up and I'd be like, "Hello, I'm from St. Mary's School. Perhaps you would like to buy a Daffy Duck pencil sharpener." or a polar bear pot holder. And they'd be like, we're eating dinner right now. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I wouldn't know what to do, so I'd just walk right into their home and just open up shop. I'd just be like, perhaps you would like a desk set organizer or a popcorn of the month club. I don't know what the things were. And they would be like, please leave our home. So I'd start putting the stuff back in, but it never fit in the way they'd initially placed it in. So I'm kind of smushing it on top of itself and scissor holding the whole thing together and apologizing, like, I'm so sorry, I'll be out of your way in just a minute. And that's why I'm angry at the Catholic Church. So I didn't even get my sunglasses. And I'm gonna go to the Vatican this year. I'm gonna be like, where are my damn sunglasses? They're gonna be confused. But it's a strange organization. I mean, I went to Catholic college as well. I did the program, and they crazy rules in Catholic colleges. They wouldn't sell condoms on campus, which was to teach us a lesson to save up for the abortion, because that can be a pricey fix. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I'm a jokester. Hey, it seems like a crazy rule. I mean, you put a bunch of 19-year-olds in a dorm together, they're not going to be like, I guess since we don't have condoms, we'll just play Pictionary. Does anybody have any pogs? I like those pogs. No, they're going to have sex with each other because that's what college is for. It's where dorks go to have sex with other dorks. That's what it was for me, and I think for you, if you're at my show. Yeah, I'm right. I know it. I knew it. I was visiting my parents, and I didn't realize how good I was with computers until I met my parents. I don't know anything about them. I just know that if a stranger emails you an attachment, you shouldn't open it. Because you can get a virus, right? But my parents didn't get the memo on that one, and they're lonely. They kind of open everything. They're like, we got mail from XR, Zebo, and monkeys.tv. I'm like, that is not your friend. Like fun, is that your friend? They ended up with a porn virus on their computer that was unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Like hardcore, excruciating porn on the desktop, on the screensaver. The icons became dildos. A guy jumped out of the screen and was like, where's your daughter? It was terrifying. They were so sad, because when they left Circuit City, they did not think this was in the realm of possibility. They couldn't even talk about it. My mom called me. I was upstairs, and she's just like, Michael, something happened with the computer. It was a very awkward week in the Birbiglia household because I think my parents were secretly suspicious of one another, that the other person had ordered this service for the computer. And, I'd never talked to my parents about sex, and never mind porn preferences. And the closest thing was when I was in college, my dad looked at me cryptically and he goes, "You're playing with fire." That was the whole conversation, I didn't know what to say. I was like, I got a hose, you gotta fill the awkward void with something. I found the antidote to this crazy virus online, and I was able to make it go away, but when I left the house, my parents still insisted on placing the computer in the corner of the house with the screen facing the wall. Like the computer had done something wrong. My parents don't like me either. No, they don't. They're very confused by me because I'm a comedian, but I wasn't like the class clown growing up, you know. The class clown was this guy, Kenny, and he was a real guy, not to be crude, but he'd pull his dick out in gym class and whack people with it like it was a wet towel. And they'd cheer. People were like, he hit me! Kenny's hilarious! And I was like, he's not. He's elastic. That is not a skill. That's an attribute. But yeah, no, I was always like the kid growing up who like things happened to. Because I was afraid of everything. Like as a kid, every summer my friends would go to Old Mill Pond, and it's a pond, and they would jump out of a 30-foot tree into the pond, and I never partook in this because I know that I'm not jump out of the tree guy. Like that doesn't play to my skill set, you know? So my skills, if you're wondering, include making English muffin pizzas. Microwaving hot chocolate, I do that. Dipping English muffin pizzas in hot chocolate, I do that when I'm lonely. But one summer I went up in the tree just to see what it would look like, and out of curiosity, and I go up and my friend Matt goes, dude, you gotta jump. And I was like, oh, no thank you. It was a misunderstanding of some kind. And he was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's only water. That's how they talk where I'm from. I'm from Boston, and I don't talk like that because I'm wicked smart. But that's what he said. He goes, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's only water. And I was like, you know, historically many terrible things have happened in water. Most of them, I think. Drowning, pirate attacks, bad sex. But he made an argument that where I'm from is irrefutable. He goes, do it. So I jumped. That was it, you know. I was like, you know, and for a few seconds I was feeling good. I was like, maybe I am jump out of the tree guy, you know. I'm gonna go celebrate with an English muffin pizza, you know. And then I hit the water, and two things happened simultaneously. One is that my back landed on the surface of the water at a flat plane. I know. And it made a gunshot noise. The second is that about 9 gallons of water rushed so far up my ass, it felt like it was coming out of my mouth. It was like a back alley colonoscopy from Dr. Old Mill, whose instruments had been sterilized in frog piss and pond scum, and I'm underwater, and I can hear laughter above the surface of the water. And I knew when you can hear that volume of laughter, it's loud, you know? And I remember thinking, I'm not sure these people are my friends. But they are still my friends. And it's sad, it's really sad, but I'm gonna stand now. I was very fortunate to have an older brother growing up, my brother Joe. You know, I always followed in his footsteps. He wore overalls, I wore overalls. He lit off fireworks in the attic. I was hit by the fireworks. Rushed to the emergency room. When I was 14, he got me my first job as a busboy at a restaurant he had worked at the summer before. And it was terrifying because I was this little kid and I was working for these tough Boston cooks. They didn't talk to me or look at me. But then one day, one of the guys looks down at me and he goes, how'd you get this job anyway? And I go, oh, my brother Joe worked here last summer. And his eyes lit up. And he goes, Joey Bag of Donuts? Yo, brothers, Joey Bag of Donuts? We love Joey Bag of Donuts. And I was like, yeah. And I went home that night and I go, Joe, was your nickname at the restaurant Joey Bag of Donuts? He was like, no. That was this other guy. That guy was awesome. So for the rest of the summer, I had to live the lie that my brother was Joey Bag of Donuts. They'd be like, seriously, how much can Joe Bags drink? I was like, so much. But I always had this fear in the pit of my stomach that one day the real Joe Bags would walk in the door and they'd be like, Joe Bags, we've been hanging out with your brother. He'd be like, that fag's not my brother. And he'd pull his dick out and whack me with it like it was a wet towel. And they'd cheer. So I still call him Joe Bags, my brother, as a precaution, you know. But I ended up being a comedian, which is it's a fortuitous career choice because I have a hard time waking up in the morning, and you know, most of these shows are at night, some people don't understand that. Whenever I tell people I have a hard time waking up in the morning, some people don't get it. Like they get out of bed like they're getting off the bench at a basketball game. They're like, all right, let's do this, you know, hands up or whatever. I don't know, but I'm like a lame cow in the road. I'm just like, meow, meow, ha ha, meow, ha, meow, ha, meow. Like when I'm staying at a hotel, I have to call the front desk and be like, can I have a wake-up call for 7, 7:10, 7:20, 9:30, and 1:30 p.m.? I literally feel like when I go to bed at night, it's like a different human being that enters my body for the night shift. And I call my guy Sleepy Carl. That's my guy. And he's a terrible employee, but he's a great dude. Like he's always like slobbering in my pillow and muttering about Vietnam. But then he'll try and talk me out of waking up with these great plans. He'll be like, why would you go out there when you can stay here and ride on a Ferris wheel made of pizza? You know? That sounds amazing, Carl. You're getting a raise. It was a problem, though. When I was in college, I took this class, and to graduate, I had to take this class called Introduction to Computers and Networks, and it was at 8 in the morning, and I showed up to the first class, and it was way over my head. Guys talking about computers. So the next morning, when I woke up for class, Sleepy Carl wasn't having it. He was like, why would you go talk about computers when you could stay here and go skiing and your skis will be French toast sticks? That's the best thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm giving you a 401k. Long story short, I never went to class again. And yeah, it's true. Yeah! No, I know. I went back eventually to the class before the final to find out what would be on the final. And I show up a few minutes early, and I sit down, and the guy next to me leans over, and he goes, you think we'll get back to final? You got it a little faster than I did. It kind of came to me in waves. I was like, we took the final? Oh no! I just sprint out of the class to the computer science department. I'm all sweating and flustered, and there's my professor, and I'm like, hello. because I didn't know his name. I'm in your class, I misunderstood the syllabus, and I missed the final. And it was so degrading because he didn't even look at me, he just looked at the floor and he goes, "You get the worst grade." But I didn't know what that meant, you know? I was like, do I get a 0, you know? And he goes, "You get the grade that the person who did the worst on the test got on the test." And I thought, that's great news. Because that's what I would have gotten if I had taken the test. Turns out, the person who did the worst on the test passed the test. So I passed the test. And I passed the class. And I am proud to be an American. And so is our president. It's true. He's the first president we've elected on the curve. Talk about him more in a bit. This is so odd. This is because you're like videoing people's reactions. It's got to be so tough for you because you're like, this better be funny. You're like famously on television for not thinking something's funny, and all your friends think you're a douchebag. Yeah, you go to a comedy show, you could have laughed, Steve. Could have gone for it, man. I mean, they're just shooting it once. Stay on, Steve. It's weird. This is a weird show because it's like a show, but it's like a television thing. It's like a DVD thing. And so much stuff going on. You guys had to wait outside. I feel bad about that. And it's just I don't know. Forget it. You know what? I'm just going home. Let's go for pizza. That's my dream. That's my dream one day that my shows will it'll just be beds in the audience. And we'll all like sit in our sleeping bags and like eat pizza until we fall asleep. That's the best way to eat pizza. Yeah. That should be on menus. Pizza until you fall asleep. They should have that. And then like everyone falls asleep, right, in the audience, and then we wake up and we have Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is the best cereal. That's not a product placement. That's not a product placement. I seriously have like an unhealthy relationship with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Because literally if I buy a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch at 3 in the afternoon, that box ain't making it to 10 a.m. Because it's like crack, you know? You don't buy crack for some point in the future. You buy it when you want it, and then you fall asleep in the tub or whatever. I don't know. Whatever you do with crack. I'm not sure of the specifics. I saw Train Spotting. I don't know. But yeah, I've been fortunate. A few years ago, I was asked to perform for the U.S. troops in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which is true. I know, and sign autographs for people who've been gone from America so long they didn't realize that I'm not famous. It was very awkward because I'd go to the base and the people would be like, "Where do I know you from?" And I was like, "Are you from Shrewsbury?" Because I played backup right field for Economy Paint Supply. I don't know if that rings a bell. And it was weird I was in Guantanamo Bay, which is, I'm a cable news junkie, so it was like being, at the news. It was, it was like walking down the real Sesame Street. I really am addicted to cable news, and I think it's because they treat every story with the same level of importance, you know? There's the laser sound effects, it'll be like, Pachoo! Are your kids having sex at the mall, you know? I don't even have kids. I'm like, are they? I gotta make sure they're not having sex at the mall. Like fun are they having sex at the mall? And it'll be like, Pachoo! Insurgents blow up bus. I'm like, whoa, really puts the mall sex in perspective. That is much worse. It's weird, the war that we're in right now, you know. I feel bad for the president at this point in the war, because it's kind of like when your dad decides he's gonna build a deck. But he doesn't know how to build a deck. And you're like, well, you know, we love him or whatever, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But then 5 years later, there's this pile of duct tape and 2x4s hanging off the back of the house, and there's water damage and termites crawling around, and he's like, I'm just finishing up the deck. We're like, it doesn't look a lot like a deck, Dad. And he's like, deck accomplished. I don't know if deck is accomplished, because the wood is split into 3 factions. And but then he tries to confuse you, you know, with these kind of nonsensical arguments. He'll be like, Mike, the termites hate our freedom. I don't know if the termites hate our freedom, Dad. I think they just like eating wood. They're just focused on the wood. And then he'll be like, if you don't support the deck, you don't support the duct tape. No, I love the duct tape, you know. I don't like you. I love you. But if I met you at a party and you were a stranger, I'd be like, this is the president? That doesn't make sense. I don't know. I just feel bad for the guy, though, because he's a little in over his head. He's like, because he shouldn't, he doesn't know how to, do it. The job or whatever. So, he's so bad, some people want to kill him, and I don't think that we should kill him. That's a really bad idea. But even, I think that he's got a pretty good defense against that. If someone shot him, he would just deny that it happened. He'd be like, you probably thought you shot me. Shoot me once, shame on you. Shoot me twice. You can't shoot the shooter. That's what he does when he doesn't understand stuff. He just goes, Everyone's like, he gets it, but he doesn't. And that's why we're all gonna die. Thanks for joining me. It's a little dark to go to commercial break on that. Drink Sierra Mist, yeah! Before we're all gonna die. We should loop that in, that would be great. Every commercial should have before we're all gonna die. The Bush thing is tricky. I've heard this argument a lot. Is he evil or stupid? And I'm sure you've heard that. I don't know. But I take one issue with him, which is that he always says that if you don't support the war, you don't support the troops, and I just think that's a little manipulative, because I love the troops, because if they weren't the troops, I would be the troops. And I would be the worst troops. I'd be like, you expect me to carry a gun this heavy and run away screaming? That is too many things. That literally happened. When I was on the military base, they handed me one of their guns, and it was just a bad idea, but I fell down from the weight of the gun. That is not who you want on the front lines. Those are your JV troops. That's what I'm in. I'm JV troops. That's the problem, though, is that, if we end up in Iran before Bush leaves, we're going to have to send in the JV troops. And they're going to see that coming from a mile away. They're going to be like, they put in Birbiglia. Behind me is like Jim Gaffigan, Lewis Black. It's like all these half-ass JV troops. Dimitri Martin spinning a quilt, it's all crazy and disorganized. Yeah, so that's the problem. But I feel very fortunate to be a comedian, and I appreciate you guys coming to this show, because if you weren't here, then I wouldn't get to be a comedian. I'd be asleep at a job somewhere. But over the years, I've had some weird shows. Sometimes people see you at like a comedy club or a college or something, and they'll be like, this is great, like this is really funny. We should have this in our conference room, like in the fluorescent lights with Diet Coke, and I'm like, that is not a good idea, but I'll do it. But I'll tell you about the worst situation that I was ever put in as a comedian. It was a few years ago. I was asked to perform at a charity golf tournament in New Jersey, and I said yes because secretly I enjoy golf, and I'm not against charity. I'm not gonna cock block charity. What am I, a monster? What do you think I am? But it was tough because I had to wake up for the golf portion at 6 a.m. Sleepy Carl wasn't having it. He was like, why would you go play golf when you could stay here and make out with Miss Pac-Man? I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. I woke up, I got dressed. I realized recently, I'm not a good adult yet. I think if you're a good adult, when you're getting dressed, you think about what you're going to do in the course of your day and plan accordingly, but I don't have that. I'm just like, one outfit forever, and I go to the golf event, and I brought my brother Joe, and Joe, I always call him America's guest, because he's like that family or friend who always just invites himself along to whatever you're doing, He'll be like, might I tag along? Even like a good entourage member, he's never like, you the man, Mike, or like, this guy's a genius. He's always like, I don't know what Dad would think about this. And, think they got any more shrimp? It's kind of a mooch, and so I show up, and it was the golf portion of the day. Turned out it was a celebrity golf tournament, and we were paired with these two guys, and the guys were like, who do you think our celebrity's gonna be? And for a moment, I got excited. I was like, yeah, who do you think our celebrity's gonna be? Oh no! I think it might be me. And then I'm like apologizing. I'm like, I'm really sorry, I'm your celebrity. Do you think this is disappointing for you? You can't imagine how disappointing it is for me. because I'm a comedian, but off stage I'm really not funny at all. I'm very awkward, and I have a habit of making awkward situations even more awkward. I always give this example, but a few years ago I was moving a new bed into my apartment, and this woman who lived in the building opened the front door for me with her key, right? And she said, "I'm not worried because a rapist wouldn't have a bed like that." That's how she started the conversation. Now, what I should have said was nothing. What I did say was, "You'd be surprised." And there's nothing you can say after that. You're just like, "See you around the building," that kind of thing. I've thought about this a lot, and I think there's something wrong with my brain where I don't have an on-deck circle for ideas. It's just batter up, And a lot of the ideas are bad. And they're at the plate going, "I don't know about this one, Mike." And I turn into this drunk Little League dad. I'm like, "You go take some cuts, son." This is Economy Paint Supply. At the end of the golfing portion of the day, my outfit was a mess, It was all wrinkled and I was like, "What about one outfit forever? What about that plan?" And so as damage control, I decided to go to the locker room to iron my own pants. And I found an iron, but there was no ironing board. And so I took off my pants and I'm just ironing them on a bench in the locker room in my underwear, which is a dead giveaway that these are my only pants. So I'm like ironing my pants, and this old guy walks by, and he's like smiling at me, like real big, and I was like, "Hello," and I realized, and I'm not making this up, that it was Rudy Giuliani. It was but I wasn't self-conscious because I was like, "Rudy's ironed pants. He knows what I'm doing." Because if it were George Bush, he wouldn't know what was going on. He'd be like, "What do you got there? Telephone? You call in your pants?" But so I'm ironing my pants, and then I put them on, and I go up to the event, the banquet, and this is where the trouble really begins. It's important before I tell you this portion of the story to remind you that you're on my side. I'm sitting in the back of the room with my brother Joe, and the woman who's in charge walks up to me and she goes, "Okay, Mike, there's 2 speakers, and then you, and then a raffle." And I thought, that doesn't sound good. But I was trying to, look at the positives. I was like, well, I've never opened for a raffle. But here's where it gets bad. The first speaker walks on, and he's an 11-year-old boy who survived leukemia. I know. He's not funny at all. He's focusing primarily on leukemia. So everyone's crying. Everyone is crying in the whole room, and I'm crying, but for 2 reasons. It gets worse, because Joe leans over and he goes, "This ain't looking so good, Mike." I said, "I concur." Second speaker walks up, and it's Phil Simms, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Giants, and he gets up, gives a really inspiring speech, and he even sprinkles in a few jokes about golf that were similar to jokes I had thought of about golf that day. It was like watching the last drops of my joke canteen. drip out onto a desert of cancer. And he got a standing ovation, which he should have. Clearly, the show was over. Surely there can't be anyone more famous than Hall of Fame quarterback Phil Simms. But wait. There was. It was Mike Birbiglia, who had spent most of his day apologizing for being someone's celebrity. At this point, 3/4 of the audience remained standing and left the building. There were about 45 people left in the room, and they were there because they're told that after the comedian, there's a raffle. I got on stage and I attempted to make people laugh. And as a comedian, when people laugh, it's very exciting. And when they don't, it feels like you're performing jazz. People are kind of bobbing their head and looking to the side. And I'm like, oh, I enjoy jazz. But then I get worried. I'm like, sometimes jazz sucks. What if I'm the Kenny G of comedy? What if I think I sound like this, like, and in fact, I sound like this. No, 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 no. Because when he plays that song in his head, he's rocking. He's just like, I'm feeling it. Everyone's like, Kenny, that song's not very good. He's like, I know that one ain't good, but how about this? No. Kenny, that's the same song. You're the worst musician ever, and we're your friends. This is an intervention. So I'm at the charity golf event, just Kenny G'ing it up. For like 10 minutes straight, just. And it's important to point out, I don't want to fail. They're good people running the event, and so I think to myself, why don't I make my material specific to this event? And everyone has been talking about cancer. I know. I'm in the future also. I had that thought for about 1.5 seconds, and then batter up. I told the audience a true story. I said I went to the doctor recently and they told me there was something in my bladder. And whenever they tell you that, it's never anything good, like we found something in your bladder and it's season tickets to the Yankees! No. At that point, I threw in the towel. I just thanked the audience and apologized simultaneously, which I had never done. I was like, thank you, sorry for ruining your event, and I walked off. And I felt so bad. I don't remember feeling worse in my life. I was just like a shell of a human being, and I walk up to Joe, and I just go, Joe, we are leaving this place now. And that's when Joe said, and I quote, Mike, I can't. They're just about to start the raffle. And because everybody left, my odds are amazing. That's the worst show that I've ever had. I want to tell you this last story. This is my favorite story to tell because it's like simultaneously the best and worst day of my life. A few years ago, for reasons I don't understand, I was asked to perform at the MVP Awards for Major League Baseball. And maybe they had heard about my work as backup right fielder for Economy Paint Supply. But I showed up to the thing and I thought that I was going to be like a pre-show or a sideshow. No, they have me seated on the stage in between Alex Rodriguez, Dontrell Willis, Josh Beckett, Roger Clemens, me, and Dennis Eckersley. And I'm sitting there and you know, we have a lot to talk about. You know, we're hashing out our multi-million-dollar contracts and paternity suits, just gab, 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 gab. No, it was really awful because like I knew I shouldn't be there, they knew I shouldn't be there. And the guy who's in charge walked up to me in the middle of the thing and he goes, we'd like you to tell a few jokes about baseball. I go, I don't know if that's such a good idea, because those people are here. But you know, they insisted on it, and so I tried my best. I got up and I go, you know, it's very exciting to be here because I grew up in Boston, and I remember going to a baseball card show as a kid and paying $8 for Roger Clemens' autograph. And I'm sitting next to him now, and he tried to charge me $13. And he did not laugh at all. But other people did. So I was 1 for 1. And then it was put on, the event was put on by the baseball writers. And so I said, you know, what's interesting about sports writers is they don't know how to play sports. And most of them don't know how to write. And they didn't laugh at that either. But other people did. So I was 2 for 2. And I tell a few more jokes about baseball. And I say, thank you. I didn't have to apologize. I sit down and I realize that I have to pee. But the event is going on. I can't just get up. It'll seem like I'm making a statement about whatever's going on, you know, like, I hate RBIs, or I don't know, whatever. I'm out of here. Homers are for suckers, you know, whatever it is. And so I choose what I perceive to be the most boring part of the night, the Lifetime Achievement Award for baseball writers. And I know. I snuck off, and I snuck behind the players, and I went to the restroom, and I was peeing, and then as I returned to the room, the recipient of the award ends his speech by saying, you know, some writers may not know how to write, but some comedians don't know how to tell jokes. I think he was talking about me. Because all 1,000 people in the room simultaneously looked up at my empty chair. And I didn't know what to do. I'm off to the side. And in a split-second decision, I decide to jog back on stage and wave. And I even walked by the guy as he went to sit down. I went to shake his hand, like as an act of goodwill, but he just walked right by me. And I felt so bad, and because I didn't know anybody. I sit down, and I look over, and Clemens hates me too. And I look over at Eckersley, and I go, Dennis, did you see that guy snub me when I tried to shake his hand? And Eckersley goes, yeah, fuck him. I was like, yeah. Chalk up another save for the Eck. Here's where it gets bad. The event ends, and I'm with my brother Joe. Joe Bax. And he was like, you think they got any more shrimp? And I was like, I don't know. But I feel really weird about this handshake thing when I tried to shake the guy's hand. And Joe goes, Mike, didn't you see his speech? He's blind. Oh, dear God. Not only had I insulted the blind guy, I had taunted him by trying to shake his hand. But in retrospect, the real evil one is Eckersley. Because he knew he was blind, and he still said, fuck him. Don't worry about it. Seriously, you guys, don't worry about it. It's cool. No, you got it. We're fine. We're fine. All right. No, please don't. I started seeing a therapist a few years ago, and thank you. And I had this really awkward thing happen where she showed up at one of my shows uninvited, and this other comedian didn't know it was my therapist, and he was like, "That woman looks crazy," and it really hurt my feelings. You know, I felt like he had made fun of my mom, like he had told a "yo therapist" joke. Like, your therapist so crazy, she interpreted her own dreams. Your therapist so cheap, she already spent your copay. One time I was talking to my therapist and session ended, and she was like, you know, time is up. And I was like, oh no, I have a lot more problems. And she's like, no, you have to go. But, you know, one thing you might want to do is write down your most intimate stories and painful memories. And sometimes when you put it on paper, it kind of puts the whole thing in perspective. So I started writing in my secret journal. And then I was like, do you mind if I email it to thousands of strangers? And she's like, yeah, I don't care. And so that's how I started writing my secret public journal. And I wrote this song. She said, put it on paper, save it for later. Tomorrow won't seem that bad. Put it on paper, save it for later. Write it in your Hello Kitty notepad. I wrote stuff like, I went down to Old Mill Pond and that colonoscopy made an unbreakable bond. Pretty sure that I heard him laugh as I sat in a frog piss pond scum bubble bath. My mom said, fix the computer. There's been an intruder. I tried to reboot her. That's a platypus scooter. You can't shoot the shooter. But you. Then I played golf for charity, and they said, who's our celebrity? I said, I think that it might be me. Sorry, that's Julia. Now I'm sitting between Clemens and Eck. I told a couple jokes that didn't mean disrespect. Some writers can't write and some others can't see. I would've known if I'd have had to pee. Fuck that guy, said Eckersley. Sleepy Carl's telling me it's time to go. Why would you go and do that show when you could stay and eat this rainbow? But thanks for coming to this show. I think it went pretty well. 'Cause sometimes it doesn't go well, and it feels like the na 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 na. Here's the takeaway. If you ever have a story where you should have said nothing, put it on paper and save it for later. I think you might be surprised. That's what I do.